So I'm going to start to my right. Warrior number one is Mama Wanda Johnson. This is the mother of Oscar Grant, who was murdered on the Fruitvale Station BART train January 1st, 2009. Next to her is Warrior Geraldine Bluford. She's the mother of Alan Bluford, who was murdered by Oakland Police Department on May 6th, 2012. To my left is Warrior Dion Smith, mother of James Rivera, who was murdered by the Stockton Police Department on July 22nd, 2010. And the final warrior on this panel is Uncle Bobby Johnson, who is the uncle of Oscar Grant. And so I'm just going to say a couple of words, and then I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. And the way that we're going to do this is I'm going to ask you all to take 2 minutes of initial remarks, and then I've got a series of questions really based in this moment in time that we're in right now. And then at the end, we'll have questions from the audience. Okay? So we're in this really incredible moment in time, right, where the entire world is focused on state-sponsored violence and on Black life and on Black life mattering. Right now, we're talking about Walter Scott and Freddie Gray. Before that, it was Mike Brown and Eric Garner. Before that, it was Oscar Grant and Sean Bell. And what's important to note about that is these are only the ones that we know about. The Malcolm X grassroots movement, if you don't know about them, you should. They're a national African liberation organization that's been entrenched in this work for a very long time. A couple years ago, they released a report called Operation Ghetto Storm. And it's a very long report. I recommend reading it. But that is where the stat, every 28 hours, a Black man, woman, or child is murdered by a police officer, a security guard, a vigilante. That's where that comes from. You see the hashtag every 28. That's from data collected by the Malcolm X grassroots movement in their efforts to continue this struggle alive. I have a theory, it's not proven yet. One day somebody, maybe now funders want to fund this work, right? We've been doing this work a long time. Now all of a sudden funders are like, oh yeah, we want to fund this. Maybe someone will fund this study. I've had this theory for a while, that every time the police murder someone and there's a big uprising or a pushback or they get taken to task, that they push back too. That in the midst of that moment, those moments, or immediately following a non-indictment, which is usually what happens, that the uptick of profilings, beatings, murders also goes up. And in 2015, the police have murdered almost 180 people, which averages out to about 1 every 8 hours. So the police are very much asserting their authority right now. And so we have to know that Walter Scott and Freddie Gray are just the ones we know about, and that across this country, Black men, women, and children are being murdered by the police at an alarming rate, that this is a genocide that's taking place in America. And if genocide was happening anywhere else in the world, the United States government would be calling conferences and special meetings, and do we send money, do we send aid, do we send military, do we bomb these awful dictators that are murdering their own people? What do we do? But in this country, it is what we sweep underneath the rug and accept as what has been the continuous state of Africans in America for the last almost 500 years. So on that note, I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to ask, in that spirit of this moment, and knowing that this is an ongoing genocide, a crisis of epic proportions in our communities, for each of the panelists to take 2 minutes and give their reflections on this current moment.
First of all, let me say thank you, Kevin, for this invitation to be a part of this panel, and of course, to the panelists, much love is shared with them because we all have suffered that same pain. And much love to Kat for her involvement in community activism, and especially speaking directly to police terrorism all across the Bay Area, but also across the United States. And then also to you that are here spending this time with us to hear this discussion and to talk about these issues. And to be real about them so that we can actually bring about real freedom, justice, and equality to all. In reflecting on what Kat had asked in regards to the current issue, the pain that we suffered as a family and what I've experienced in the last 6 years going crisscrossing across this country, is quite clear to me that there is a genocide that is taking place throughout this country when it comes to Black lives. And we have to be clear that, of course, you know, everyone is being affected, but specifically young black men, young black women, and even young black children. Ayanna Jones, just as an example, 7 years old, out of, was it Detroit? Detroit, killed. You know, our Brown brothers, Andy Lopez, as we know, up in Santa Rosa, killed. And I can go on with the names and names and names, just talking about the babies. Tamir Rice, you know, these are just examples. So what we're talking about is real. And, you know, and I try to make it clear that it's not about a single incident where it just so happened to be a rogue cop or a bad cop. This is systemic. It's from the very foundation of this country, and how racism, along with capitalism, has perpetrated crimes, especially on people of color, specifically black people. Now, we know about our indigenous brothers and sisters. We know about black folks being brought over here from another continent, but we also know about our brown brothers who lost their land to the heinous act of white supremacy. And so we have to talk about those issues in the current state of what's going on, because until we address white supremacy in its essence, what we see happening all across the United States is only going to get worse. And you know what, I have to cut this short because we said 2 minutes, so let me just stop now. Yes.
Hi, I'm Dion. I'm the mother of James Rivera. I'm from Stockton, California. My son was 16 years old. He died July 22nd, 2010. And I have not received justice as we speak today. No police report, no dash cam, nothing that I'm asking for. Our city of Stockton had filed bankrupts in 2000, I think it was 12. And at the potential of falling bankrupt, what they done is they put all my stuff on hold. And the sheriff, the DA, the mayor, all of them is retired. They all gone. So now I'm dealing with a whole bunch of new people in my city. So I've been marching. I've been coming to Oakland, getting support, getting a bus, bringing them down to Stockton, go to the city hall, go to the DA, go to the police department, and we still today have not received any paperwork regarding my son's death. This has been a long, finna be 5 years. As a mother, don't got no answer of what happened to my son, and it's hard. You know, and this has been hard. Couple months ago, I lost my mom. She was my big supporter on keeping me out there on the battlefield fighting. You know, I'm a mother of 14. She was helping me with my children. She was helping me also when I organized in my community for community feeds. So I don't have that no more. And so I was thinking about giving up in December. But I know my mom wouldn't want that. So I just been trying to get my thoughts together. And it's hard when you have a lot of kids. And then you see, when you come on the TV, CNN, and you see it's constantly happening. And you be saying, okay, I'm in Stockton, California. My son was killed by 2 Stockton police and a sheriff. My son case didn't even hit out of San Joaquin Valley. You know, if I don't take my body and my voice to that town or to these places, my son would never been heard. The reason a lot of people that know my son right now about his story, because this all you got was me and my husband and my kids. We went to Oakland. We went to Ferguson. We had to go to and we had to take our story out because we never was out. It never got put out there. Like they said, the media didn't pick up Stockton killing. And since then, it's been more killing in Stockton. And I've been active in my city. I've been organizing in my city, making awareness. Because when I found out that it was also a lot of killings in Stockton before my son, but it was never been out there for us to understand that this was happening at home. And so last year what I did is I went and requested the city attorney to give us the killing from 2009 to present of all officer involved killings. And what we did, we got that, and I put the names with the face. And they was wondering, how did she get the name with the face? And so we went out there and we put flyers out there because we got to remember these same officers that's killing our loved ones is still in the community. is still pursuing the community. So people need to know awareness that these officers are killer cops. So when they come in your area and around you, you'll be cautious. You know, you'll know pretty much what to do. So we also had a little cop watch as well. And later on during the panel, because I know we have 2 minutes, I will show you the pictures of the damage that they had did to my son. I still, in this fight, I'm still curious because you murdered my son and you don't give us nothing. You know, a mother, you don't give us nothing, no answer. And it's just like when I go there, because you don't, this all you get. You just get me and a couple of people I bring from Oakland, and they stand with me at the DA office. They have us sitting, we sit there, and they don't tell us nothing. We sit there until the courthouse closed. We go to the investigator office. We sit there, they don't talk to us. We go to the police department, putting in paperwork. What we need is people to get involved, the number one factor. And a lot of people don't understand, today was my family, today could be your family. And what gave me a little boost to this maze is when I seen Oscar Grant, because he died a year earlier before my son. And we went out there to Oakland, but I didn't know a year later that my son will be shot and killed by police. And they shot my son 48 times, 18 entered his body, and they used AR-15s, shot him in his head, his body, and I had to basically sew him back up, prepare a funeral. And that was the hardest thing that I had to do. I had to see the damage that they did to my son, and that's what keeps the fire in me, is that how could this system let this happen and don't question it? You know, nobody questioned these killings. You know, you done killed a 16-year-old. Nobody say anything? You know, so I want to say thank you, and, you know, if y'all see us out here, support us.
Good evening, afternoon. First, I want to thank Kevin, Tina, the staff, and each and every one of you for, you know, taking the time and having the awareness to pull this together. My name is Geraldine Lufford, and I'm the mother of Dwayne victim, Alan Dwayne Lufford, who was 18 years old, shot down by Oakland police officer Michelle Mastro 2 weeks before his graduation and 1 week after his senior prom. I just want to quote this one mother, and because it speaks profoundly. Like, we as mothers, we don't always have the energy, the strength, the stamina. I mean, when something is ripped away from you and stolen, someone that means so much to you. These are our babies. That was my youngest son. And we were very close. And this mother said, they killed the wrong boys, but they got the right mama. Because we didn't choose this, but we as mothers, broken-hearted, we formed a bond. And when one is down, there's always out of some grace of God, some mother will step up and say something to me that gives me encouragement to go on. So I'm going to go right to Kat's question. How I feel about Black Lives Matter today and what's going on. Alan matters. Oscar matters. James matters. These mothers matter. Kat's children matter. Uncle Bobby matters. Each and every one of you have a value of life. So let me start off with that. Secondly, we all know the system is jacked up and it's deemed to destroy us. Our history tells us that. But there are times in our history where people have come together and said no more. They said no more to slavery. They said no more to civil rights. Today we say no more. Our sons' lives matter and no more. Number one, I feel as though that the way this capitalist system is made. Now, they can find money to do whatever they want to in America. But everything good, it seems to me that the rich pour into the rich. And that's so he can keep the poor poor. There's no middle class. We are extinct. So what they're doing is robbing us from our future. And in my son's case, and in Dion's son's case, and unfortunately for my sister Wanda here's case, they had a video, but we didn't have a video. And the first thing they do in this capitalist system is they turn the public and the caring folks against our children by putting out that they're bad, that they're no good, that they have a gun, that they did this, and it's all lies. And if you're not out there swinging, fighting, kicking, scratching, biting your way through this, that will continue to be the mindset of the people. And that's what deters them from getting involved. But we say no more to that. We don't want that. Just like you said, today, our families, tomorrow, your family. And it's not, bullets don't have names on them. They're taking out the girls, the babies, the young men. This is sick. And if I believe that is for a reason that Eric Gardner was on video, and I believe it was a reason that, certain ones have videos, because it is just giving a little bit of what it's like. But when you have nothing and you start from the ground, from the bottom of the barrel, and you got to scratch and claw your way up, oh no. They killed the wrong boy. But this right here is the right moment, because I'm taking it to the street. I'm taking it to their asses, because they're not going to get away with it. They can't.
Well, I want you to know that all lives matter. I want you to know that in this life, there are things that we do that's not favorable sometimes to people, and that's all of us. And sometimes there's things in our causes that we don't want nobody to ever know about. But yet, when things happen to other people, we put up this judgmental attitude, and we begin to go along with what the media says. But I want to encourage you to be a thinker for yourself on today. I want to encourage you not just be a thinker, but to examine your own life before you begin to pass judgment against someone else's life. And as you examine your own life, then you will be able to be sympathetic and understand that, yes, that person may have went through some things, but yet, as long as that person has life, they can turn their life around and be who they were originally created to be. And so all lives matter. And so no matter what you hear in the media, there's good in every person who has been killed by the police. And it's up to us to, as those who are living, to pull out the good of those individuals, of all of us. Pull out the goods, the gifts, the talents, and the abilities that they have, and work together to change our system and let our system know that all lives matter, not just some, but all lives matter, and all people have potential to be who they were created to be in this society.
So I just want to pull out a couple of things that we heard. What Mama Wanda was saying about the demonization of the young men and women when they're murdered. And if you start to track it, you will see a pattern, right? You hear about the shooting, and then immediately you start to hear, well, they were doing this, or they were doing that, or they were doing the other, and they find the scariest possible picture they can find of that young person and flash it across every news channel in America. But America has a jury system. Right? And so regardless of if they were stealing cigars or having a fist fight or whatever it is that they were doing, nowhere in the police job description does it say it is their job to be judge, jury, and executioner, right? And so at the very bare minimum, they have a right to due process. So the important things to hold. And most of the families that get thrust into this is that it's the social club you never want to join, right? They weren't necessarily political. They weren't out in the streets. They were raising their children and living their lives, and they were thrust into the spotlight. Activists, I've never been part of a situation where we've knocked on the door of someone who's lost somebody and said, do you mind if we make a martyr out of your child? They're thrust into this, right? And so with that, my next question is, what have you learned through your journey, and what parts of your belief system about this country and what it is have been challenged or changed? Anybody can go. Bobby? Bobby, go ahead.
I'll go ahead and start that. That's interesting. You know, my sister and I was raised here in Hayward. We were surrounded by white folks, our Latino brothers and sisters, Asians, many other people, but primarily white folks. And so, and I'm saying all that to say, is it on? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Push it on. Push it on. Turn it on. No, she said push it on.
Oh, it got pushed on. There we go. Okay, you can hear me. In regards to how politically I have changed, I'll tell you, growing up in Hayward, I had really lost vision of what really existed in this society when it comes to racism and the issues surrounding that. And so, of course, when King was killed, I can remember the school that I was at didn't even pay attention to Martin Luther King. So it really kind of watered it down. And we really got the vision, I say my sister and I, more or less, by watching television and hearing others talk about it, you know, but not so much really in it and feeling it and not being taught what really was happening. But to make a long story short, I jumped into the military. I was with the 75th Ranger Battalion, 1st Strike Force, anywhere in this world within 48 hours. I would have jumped into anybody's land, totally unconscious of what I'm doing, and fought like hell for the representation of the United States. That's how blind I was. But I had a rude awakening when I ETS, or my military term, ended, and I wanted to become an officer in the military. And my first paper I wrote about was representing black folks, and the military professor of science told me, the United States have no color. It's red, white, and blue. You got the wrong attitude. You is not going to be an officer in this military, so you might as well go on home. And I was awakened, and I went to San Francisco State. I'm an alumni of San Francisco State, and I got in the Black Study program, and I became real conscious of issues concerning this system. But it was just fed to me, but I hadn't really responded. But when my nephew was murdered, all that came up. I was extremely angry enough to be reckless in my anger. But I tell you this, and this is for all of you, and I'm going to try to make this quick. About 1:49 or 1:40, before Oscar was murdered, I texted him. He was really heavy on my heart, and I texted him, and I told him, Uncle loves him, God loves his family. And at 2:11, he was murdered. You know, I am so thankful today. And I say this because it's critical that any time a loved one is on your heart heavy, and you feel their spirit, reach out to that person, because you don't know if that's for you. Because, see, that was for me. Because had I not done that, I might not be sitting right here today, because my anger was reckless. But God allowed me to feel what he gave me, the opportunity to share that love. And Safina let me know, that's Oscar's fiance, that he received that text because she thought it was a female. He said, no, this is my uncle. This is my uncle. You know what I'm saying? And so I felt real good about that, and I'm so thankful. So for you, you know, to me, that's a real clear message on how we need to respond when we're prompted in our heart. But from that, I began to move out in an organizing matter, and I became very active in advocating and speaking to this issue of police terrorism all across this country. You know, and I say this and shut up. We are at a state of emergency. The very foundation of this system is hemorrhaging on black life. And if we fail, you hear what I'm saying? If we fail to deal with this issue,
these babies, Cat's daughter, and these babies that are coming behind us, our grandbabies, will not have a right to life, because if it's bad now, what will it be like for them? We have a sincere commitment, and I hope that you're here with the idea that there's something that you can do to make this system right. White supremacy is real. The indigenous people that got killed in this land is real. Africans that was brought over here to this continent and totally disrespected and made money off of is real. In the Latino community, where half of the United States was taken from them, is real. And not only that, a genocide occurred with them too. We are at a state of emergency. And we all have a sincere commitment and obligation to these babies. Our failure to act, you are just as culpable of this racist institutionalized system of allowing it to happen by not responding. When these mothers call out for help, come help them. When you hear about a protest somewhere, you go to that protest, because if you fail, I'm sorry to get loud, I get really emotional about this, but if we, this is really serious, because we know what time it is. And if you think 1964 to 68 was bad, when every major city in this country went up in flames, keep sitting back and watch what happens.
Okay. You got the question? Tell me again.
What have you learned through your journey since your loss? And what about your belief system in America has been challenged or changed?
Okay, because I don't want to start getting all off on something else, because I'm mad too now. Uncle Bobby done stirred up some stuff, and I want to, get to talking and fighting and carrying on. And here's the thing. When my son was murdered, city of Oakland, they got behind us. But me personally, as his mother, I was on a path of destruction. And if it wasn't for the God that I serve, placing people in my life like Dion and Sister Wanda and Bobby and Aunt B and Jack and Molly, if he hadn't done that, you would have been seeing me on the news driving my car through the front door of the Oakland Police Department right there down on Clay Street. And I wouldn't have cared who I ran over. I was on a path of destruction. I wanted to destroy them because I felt destroyed. My heart was broken, shattered into pieces. If you asked me my name, I didn't even know. My legs were weak. There were times we went to speak outs. If Molly didn't stand by me or behind me and just hold me up, I didn't even have enough strength to do that. But boy, when you talk about my son, I was on that mic and I was letting him know. Now, what have I learned? What I have learned as a mother of a slain child by a police officer is they will do anything necessary to make themselves look good. And let me give you a little bit of my experience. When it first happened, they told me to go sit down in the lobby and left me there for a couple of hours, not giving me any information. And we sat there because we needed to know. Then my husband's like, let's go, get up, let's get it, we out of here. Because they weren't trying to help us. And the cop who was behind the desk was so arrogant and rude. He was like, that's all I could tell you. But they knew that they had moved my son's body, that he was killed in cold blood, that the police officer turned off his lapel camera. They knew that. And they didn't give a damn. Because immediately after my son's death, they start scrounging around trying to clean it up. When the community came out there and started saying, that's messed up, they made them get back. They taped it off 10 feet away. Nobody could get close. Nobody could say anything. Nobody could do anything. But they knew that. Then immediately, and my husband's cousin saw the police union Oh, it was packed out that day. They were scrounging around, deciding what they were going to do. They would do anything necessary to clear their name. They had my son at Highland Hospital under assumed name just so his parents couldn't identify him, see him. They knew they did wrong. And what I've learned is you can never take what they say and think that that's the truth. When they came out and said that my son shot the police officer twice. We knew that was a lie because my son had respect of his elders. He was taught that. So we knew that was a lie. We didn't believe it. And we got up right away and started saying, "You lying. That can't be." So never take what they say. Work until you get your own information because they won't give you the truth, but you have to seek the truth until you find the truth. And that's what I learned. They will lie and cheat and steal and dog you out and never look back. And what about my belief has changed? Well, like Sister Wanda said, I questioned myself as a mother. I questioned myself as a woman. I questioned the fact that I told my son that he had every right to do what he wanted, not just do what he wanted to, but he was better than the other people in that he had rights. But that's changed because his rights as a young man to walk away or run away from a situation that wasn't fair, that the police beat up his friend, threw one up against the fence, threw the other one and my son didn't want any part of that. It was his constitutional right, as they say, the Constitution. It was his constitutional right to get up and leave however he wanted, whenever he wanted. And guess what? Because he did that, that officer killed him after shooting himself. Let me say that again. The officer shot himself. And guess what? Guess who he's blaming for that? The city of Oakland. And he's saying, well, they knew I was crazy anyway from the war. I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. So he's supposed to get a pass. That's changed. The belief in protect and serve that my mom taught me, that my grandmother taught me, I don't believe in that. But I do believe that they will taint the jury by demonizing the victim. They put the story out that they want to. That damn Henry Lee from the San Francisco Chronicle, I hope you watching or listening or something, because your ass is full of shit. You lie, you taint the stories, you work with the police, and you make our kids look bad because it was favorable to you. But that Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. And you wrote those stories and put it out everywhere. They got on the news with my baby's picture. He just coming out the mall smiling about his new True Religion jeans, and they talking about he shot a cop. They will demonize and victimize the victims while they go home to their happy ass life. And I don't believe that's why my beliefs have changed. I don't have any faith in the system, but I do have faith in God. And God knows my heart. I know I may say shit and fuck the police and all that, but guess what? I do love our people. I do love our babies. And now it is my duty to stand up and fight for change.
What I want to start with is my beliefs, how my beliefs have changed. I look at our court system totally different than I did before. With Oscar's case, the officer was charged with involuntary manslaughter and only served 10 months in county jail. And Mike Vicks, when he was charged, he received 4 years And so what is a black man's life worth to our judicial system is one of the questions that I begin to ask myself. And even in the courtroom, as Judge Robert Perry began to start off that he would make this case last forever if the protesters would continue to act out. And then how he said to us, you know, that we've come a long way, because insinuating because Obama was in the office that we have come this far. And I want to tell you, we haven't came far at all. And so my belief system to the system of the court system, the district attorney's office, and I said this in the beginning, that it is a conflict of interest for the district attorney to try to charge an officer. And I say that because he works with the officers on a daily basis. They go play golf together. They go to lunch together. Their kids go to schools together. And so in my opinion, it is a conflict of interest for him to even have tried to convict the officer. And as we sat in the courtroom, and one of the things that really changed my belief in the system was when my brother got up to speak, and he said to the judge, "Judge, I hope you don't throw and blow this case. I hope to God you don't blow this case." And a few minutes later, the judge said to us, "I made a mistake on giving the instructions to the jury. So I'm going to act as the 13th juror, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the gun enhancement charge that they had found the officer guilty of, which would have gave him an additional 10 years. I'm going to drop the gun enhancement charge, and I'm going to give him credit for time served. I think he got about 365 days for time served. And I'm going to sentence him with 10 months. And those 10 months was spent in county jail. And so how did that change my beliefs in the system? Well, many African American, and not just African American young men, but many black and brown go to prison for selling drugs, and they do more time than that. But yet my son was killed by this officer, found guilty of gun enhancement charge, found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, and yet serves only 10 months. And then not even to top that off, if he's good for the time period that he gets out for a year, well, he can go back and apply to carry a gun again. And so what did that tell me about the system? That the system is corrupt itself, and the laws of the land that was made was not for us. And so we have to work to get the laws changed, because otherwise we will continue to see our African American and brown young men being killed at the hands of police, and the officers not being charged for the crimes that they are committing. And so the last question is, what have I learned? I learned that it's important for us to work together to ensure that when we see a wrong taking place, if we have our cameras, film it. Don't just act like, oh, that's not my business, I have nothing to do with it. Yes, because tomorrow they could be knocking on your door, telling you the news that your loved one has been killed and shot by the hands of the police. So you don't have to wait till they come to your door. You can act now by, when you see these offenses occurring, by standing up and filming the officers, by standing up and seeing the wrong that's being done and participating in the rallies, participating in this kind of meeting settings, working to make a change. And the last thing I want to say is, those young men that was on the platform and other young men who see their friends killed, there is no counseling offered for them. There is no where you will see in different schools where there's a shooting that occurred, they send counselors on site to counsel those individuals. Well, we need to have some counseling, some healing centers set up for our young men, our young women who see such acts take place, where we can bring them together and work with them, because guess what? They need to be healed just as well as the person who was killed. They need to be healed. They need to be comforted. They need to be talked to and encouraged, and let them know that you can still make it. You can still go forward. And it's going to take us to do that, to grab our young people when they go through these type of situations, and to love on them and to encourage them and to nurture them. It's going to take us to do that. Thank you.
Also, my stepfather was also a sheriff from East Palo Alto. He was the police, and it was hard to know that police lie. You know, because, you know, I thought police, what they say was always right. You know, I used to go to where they train the dogs. You know, we used to go out when they do things. But brought it to my attention, when my son was killed, first thing I did, I thought it was black on black crime. Find out it was the officer, and I'm after the officer what happened. They giving me the point, go talk to this one. I'm running, trying to figure out what's going on. My son is on the ground. My son never said anything. I'm looking at my son on the ground. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And that's when they start grabbing him and putting him in the ambulance. So I followed the ambulance all the way to the hospital. And now I'm calling the police on the police, because I'm still ain't clicking in my mind that my son was killed by the police. And so I'm asking them, what's going on? I got 2 officers behind me because I didn't stop. I'm keeping up with the ambulance. So we get to the hospital, and I was telling them, you know, my son has Medi-Cal. I was telling my son's blood type. I was giving them all information regarding my son, because they can work on him. You know, if he have any breath, to work on him and let him know that his mama's here. When I'm out there, I'm crying. I'm calling my husband. I'm calling my mom. And the only thing I could do is cry, get on the ground and start praying. I just cried. Then they brought the dogs on me. They was trying to wrap me up, you know, because I was there by myself. So I'm nervous now, you know, what's going on? So my mom and them got there, and all my family got there, and they still did not let me know that my son had expired. They told everybody except me. They let my uncle to go back there, because he a pastor. They let him go back there. And I said, no, I want to go back there. But when I get ready to go back there, I knew something was wrong, because all the officers had their head down. And that's where I knew my son was in that area. But they wouldn't let me go to that area. And so my other son, he tore up the door. So all my kids ran, like trying to run into the hospital. And my baby, he was like, at the time, I think my baby was 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. So, you know, it was just like she was saying, you know, when we lose our loved one, they don't counsel us. They don't counsel the siblings. You know what I mean? My kids still taking it hard today. You know, that their brother was shot them multiple times, even my older kids. And so it was hard for me to really adjust that an officer or the system would do that. Then I goes back into the community, the officers laughing, making funny marks. They was arresting people because the people was telling us what had happened. And we still don't know exactly what happened, because the police have not gave us the information. But we know they were saying on the news, the reason they shot my son multiple times was the van was backing up. That's why they said they shot my son. They said it was a gun, so they changed the story and said he was backing up, and that's why they opened fire. And that's fib. My son was hit from the back by the police car, hit him from the back and then the side, knocking him into 2 mailboxes, into some bushes, and knocking him into a home. So we already know that he needed help. He needed medical attention. He didn't need to be shot 48 times. You know, he was already knocked unconscious. You know, so what I have been doing, how I get myself together, and what I learned to hear a mother. I learned to engage with other mothers, you know, that have the same thing that I went through. Because a lot of us mothers think that nobody cares. A lot of you think, you know, my story is different from you, but I don't trip off that. What I do, I go and I sit and I learn from a mother. You know, we all get together and we learn from each other fight, in each other battle. You know, and what we gonna do next. You know, what'll be a successful for the next round. And so that's what we feed on. Just like on Mother's Day, a young lady called me from Antioch, and she said, "What are y'all doing for Mother's Day?" And she was crying because she had lost her. She just had buried her baby March 5th. And she was crying. And so what we did, she made me start crying. And then I just sat back in the bed. I was going to get up and try to get out. I couldn't even do nothing, but I had a good time to be able to share that pain with her over the phone. So I learned to share. I learned to talk about it, because if we don't talk about it and we don't share, it won't get out. It won't help other families. It won't help other mothers, because we got a lot of mothers that have lost their loved ones and they don't know where to start. They don't know how to talk. When I first started, I couldn't say nothing about my son. When I first started, I cried. I mean, you say his name, I cry. And I was confused. And I'm learning today, as I go, I'm learning how to speak. I'm learning how to tell his story. And I'm not going nowhere. I'm going to continue to fight. I'm going to continue to fight. And whatever they call for a mother's cry, I'm standing on that note. Thank you.
So we have about 7 minutes left, and we want to provide an opportunity for the audience to ask the mothers and Uncle Bobby some questions. And so I think what we'll do is ask a question, and one of you can decide who wants to answer that question, so we can get as many questions as possible. So we'll do it that way. So I'm going to go so this sister here and then this brother here.
From Oakland, we moved to Pleasanton. So I went from the inner city to the suburbs. So I know the difference. My brother went through a year-long struggle because he defended himself on a fight at school. It's not his fault. He was a better fighter and knocked the kid out. I want to know. I sing. I teach. I can talk. I'm very well educated. I sang at the United Nations to honor my school. What can we do? What can I do now besides being here? Because it hurts. It hurts to hear y'all and to have to read this and to just know that my brother, that was your son and your son and your son and your nephew. My heart is with you. I spent my Mother's Day with my mother, and you couldn't spend your Mother's Day with your children. And if I could give each of y'all my phone number, you need groceries. Mama, you need help. What can I do? What can we do? If there was anything that we could do right now today, what can we do right now today?
I'm going to ask actually the folks to hold that question just because everybody's sitting at this table.
Okay. My question is, I guess for all of you is, y'all talked about the battle between young black men and the law enforcement, but what about the battle between ourselves, and how can or what can we do to effect change for both? Because I know the big topic is cops killing young black men such as myself, but there's also a lot of black on black crime and blacks killing others. So I just wanted to know you or get your opinion about that.
So my opinion is this, is that what we have to do is first learn how to love ourselves. We have been taught really to be jealous of one another. And so because of the jealousy of one another, it stirs up hatred. And hatred stirs up murder. And so until we begin to let each one of us know that you are valuable, you are special, you have gifts, talents, and abilities that nobody else have. Only you can walk the road that you have been born to walk on. I can't walk your road. You can't walk my road. What you can do, only you could do it. No one else can do it. And until we begin to teach each other that and begin to value each other's life, we will continue to see the killing that takes place. But the word that it starts with is love, being able to love yourself, and then being able to love others for who they are, and then encouraging them with whatever talent they have to utilize that talent to build this nation even the more, or build our community to be what is needed and what it was first originally set to be. Because we are peculiar people, we're royal priesthood, we're queens, and we're kings. And we have to walk in that authority that our lives do matter and that we are somebody. And until we begin to share that with each other, we're going to continue to see our nation our people kill each other. And so what I would say to you is, as you with your brothers and your sisters, encourage them, in their gifts that they have. Let them know that they are somebody. Let them know that they could do whatever it is they set out to do, and that nobody could do it like they do it. And as you do that, and as our mindsets begin to change, and as we begin to build each other up, our nation of people will begin to change and realize that we are the chosen people and that we are somebody.
Sorry, I was in Baltimore. The Crips, the Bloods, and the BGF all came together, right? They said, you know what? This is not about us killing each other. This is about a system that we can see clearly now that is killing us. And so really in many ways, sad to say, it's oxymoron, but it's a blessing because we're actually finding out that we're not our own enemies. So I'm saying that to say what I saw and I witnessed, and these brothers talked to me about the love that they have for one another, and they want to spread that across the United States. So it's starting.
Well, yes.
I want to be on camera. Yeah, this is not a question. I just want the people in the audience to know what police terror is. You know, right after Oscar Grant was murdered, my cousin called me and he said that they locked down all the prisons in California because they were in prison. They thought that that the retaliation for Oscar Grant was going to take off in the prisons. And then I found out from a friend of mine who I grew up, who was a correctional officer. He told me it made him mad that after Oscar was murdered, they found out who his a relative was, and they went and got him, and they were trying to find out who was related to the people that were affiliated with Oscar, and they wanted to lock him up in the hole. So this system is really corrupt, and I just want to piggyback off what Wanda said. If you look at the young man who filmed Eric Gardner, he ended up in prison. The young man who just filmed Mr. Gray being murdered, he ended up in jail. So this police terror doesn't stop. So what I want to say, like 2 weeks ago, the young men who were with Oscar Grant on that platform, along with Safina, they were at a birthday party. And so they got a call. So at 12 o'clock, they noticed, my kid's grandmother told me that there was a helicopter in the air. And then what the police, the Hayward police did is they came to where the young men and everyone that was affiliated with Oscar Grant, they came and shut the block down, and they had guns out. And what they did is they kicked the fence open, and they told the young men who were with Oscar Grant, come out. And they wouldn't come out. So it was a standoff with the young men in the Hayward Police Department for 4 hours, from 12 o'clock to 4 in the morning. Finally, the police left. But this is what I want to say. When you fight against police terror, but these are the things that the police officers do. And here we are 7 years later after Oscar Grant is murdered, but these young men or anyone affiliated with Oscar still faces these consequences.
Yeah, question, comment. First of all, my wife wanted to show you guys a picture, but I'm not going to wait. I'm going to show it to you now because I want you guys to see, you know, I don't want nobody to walk out the room saying that they didn't really get to understanding what we're talking about. Now, my son was shot with an AR-15 in the back of his head. The first shot was a lethal shot to the back of his head. He was unarmed. He needed medical attention, like my wife said, that he did not get. Turn that picture around. Here's the picture of the AR-15 that they used, and they put it back in actually putting it back in the trunk, but we caught them when they said they didn't use the AR-15, but we know it, they did, and so we caught them. We had more pictures of the officers like giving each other high five and laughing like it was a celebration to kill our son. Now, I say this to say this, women are fighting real hard nowadays for not just black lives, things that matter, homelessness, the job rate, but they're fighting hard standing next to other women who've lost their kids in the struggle against police brutality. Now, we must say that we are not against police, but we're against the police brutality. And we know that they have other ways to subdue somebody that they are not using. They are using lethal force only first. They are trained killers, and they shoot to kill. We could change that because that's not how it's supposed to be. Our kids were not creating no crimes that day. They were all unarmed. All these people are on the panel right now. They were unarmed. These kids were unarmed. So we have to really understand this and then say, you know what could we do to help these mothers that are continuing to stand on the front line? They're not in the back. These mothers are on the front line, and we fathers are right next there to them. So we're saying that don't wait till it happens to you. Say, what can I do? Like this woman said, what can I do right now? Because that's what it's about. If we wait till later, it's going to be more devastating. We are dying at a level that's never seen before in history. We are dying real fast. So that should wake us up. People should be concerned because you know what? Like she said, it's our kids today, your kids tomorrow. So why wait till tomorrow? What can we do today to change this? Because they didn't deserve to get killed the way they were killed. I mean, if somebody is doing something wrong and they're out there with guns and they're robbing and the police come on the scene and you're not doing what they say do, then you know what? You get what you got coming. But if you know you're innocent, you're unarmed, and things happen like this with police, we are not to just turn our head and say, you know what? It's not my son and it's not my problem. Because you know what? It is our problem. It's not just our problem. It's our problem as a whole. Not just one person's problem because our kids are not here and not your kids. It's all of our problems, and we have to take heed to this and say, what can we do to change this? Because this is not right, and we are not accepting this no more. We're not going to walk away. We're not going to say it's okay, that it was his fault. It wasn't your fault. No, it is your fault. You know, so we want officers to be accountable. We want them to take urine tests. We're asking for urine tests. We're asking for blood samples. We're asking for sensitivity tests, when the last one they took, things of that nature. We got cameras going. I mean, Oscar Grant was on camera. Kenneth Harding was on camera. You know, our son, he wasn't on camera, but I'm saying, so we know cameras are not doing the full work that they need to be done. It's our cameras, our eyes, our involvement that needs to be an uprise. When Obama came in office and Trayvon Martin was killed, I guess they thought that something was going to happen. It was going to be a change, and nothing changed when Trayvon got killed. It was Jordan Davis and then Michael Brown and Eric Garner and all these people that are unarmed being killed. We thought it was going to be a change, but nothing changed. And that's why, you know why it hasn't changed? Because we haven't stepped up. Look, the thing was down. The fire has come down. We have to raise it up again because we thought that something was going to change. It didn't change. And we just need more involvement. You know, we thank you for letting us come out. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We have declared 2015 the year of resistance, and we are in Black Spring. And Martin Luther King said that riots are the language of the oppressed. Martin Luther King, not Malcolm, who I love. Martin Luther King said that. And what you're seeing across the country is resistance springing up. Right, and you see the state reacting to that and trying to pacify people. That indictment in Baltimore isn't because the system has had some revelation and is changed. It's because they don't want Baltimore anywhere else. It's because they knew that Oakland already had protests planned 48 hours later, and they had best to do something, right? And so now is the time to pick up the pressure, to push up the heat. This isn't when we get pacified and go home because some pigs got charged. Right, this is when we really fight and organize. And so I just want to take the last few minutes, I know we've got a keynote that we're behind on, to allow the folks at this table to talk briefly, 30 seconds, about what they're doing and how you can get involved right now. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Love Not Blood campaign and Uncle Bobby.
Yes, so for those that are looking for some real work and to be active, I've started, and my wife is the co-founder also of the Love Not Blood campaign. We're a spinoff from the Oscar Grant Foundation. We continue the work through the Love Not Blood campaign, but we include, of course, community violence as well as mass incarceration, because we know that this criminal justice system is racist to the core. So we have to be clear of that. So the website is www.lovenotbloodcampaign.org, where we can be reached at. That's 510-599-6357 or 510-706-7558. And two things, and then I'm going to pass the mic. Just two things really quick. My sister talked, just so that you can know the criminal justice system is racist. Judge Robert Perry told us, my God, this is not about black and white or race. We just gave you a black president. That's what my sister was talking about when she talked about the judge. He told us if we didn't make all of you go away, he would make the case last 5, 7, or 50, or 10 years. He told us that. And then they allowed the silhouette of Oscar's body to be named KKK. No rhyme or reason, no chronological order, no alphabetical order. They named it KKK, and he accepted it. This is the system that we're dealing with, and until we get a correct analysis, we'll always fail in fixing it. We got to understand what we're dealing with.
Your contact information, how to get a hold of
Okay, my contact is Facebook, Dion Smith, or I have a Stockton corruption page as well. And also, when someone said how you support us, well, I'm supposed to be having a court date in a couple of weeks. And so you can also look on my web, because I keep you informed on what the next step is going to be. But we have a court date. The judge that I had that was on this case, he had retired, so now they gave us a new judge. So you can find me again, Dion Smith, Facebook.
Okay, I just want to say one thing, baby. Love is the key. And I implore all of you, each one teach one. Each one reach one. Because if we educate each other and love on each other, I honestly, and this may be a stretch, but I have faith in my heart that we, just us, can bring justice, okay? And you can reach me at the Alan Bluford Center for Justice. That's 2434 Telegraph Avenue in Oakland, California. It's the place to help heal the community. We do have a Facebook page and a Twitter account, so if you Google or touch in Alan Bluford, then you can reach me there. Thank you, loved ones. God bless.
Again, you can reach me at the Oscar Grant Foundation. One of the things that we're doing right now is we have an AAU basketball team called the Oscar Grant Ballers. If you have any youth that's between the ages of 13 and 17, we practice Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in Hayward. You can look on the website and you can get that information. Also, if you have any graduates graduating from high school, we are offering scholarships. They just need to go online and fill out the application and write the essay for the scholarships. The deadline is May 18th. And if you want to contribute financially, it's also available. You can do that online to help further our cause, which is to get at-risk youths and bring them together and work to train them, to let them know and teach them how to love themselves and to help pull out the gifts that they have within them to be able to be the citizens that they were created to be in high places and in high positions. Thank you.
And I am one of the founders of the Anti-Police Terror Project. We meet every third Wednesday at Eastside Arts Alliance. So we have a meeting coming up this Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. We are building a replicable, sustainable model for fighting police terror. The police do not just murder us every once in a while. We are terrorized 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and so we need to organize as such. We invite you this Saturday to join us at Legionnaire for a fundraiser dance party. And we've been talking about young men, but Rick Boyd was murdered by the Chicago Police Department. And the officer who murdered her is getting ready to get off of desk duty and go back into the community, which we know that happens regularly. And so on May 21st, the community of Chicago was rising up, and they have put out a call to stand in solidarity. And so we are holding an action in the Emeryville Shopping Center where Yvette Henderson was murdered with an AR-15 from 4:30 to 6:30. So those are some things right now you can also get involved in or join us next Wednesday at Eastside Arts at 7:30. Please give a hand for these families that are fighting, struggling, resisting, inspiring, working, organizing tirelessly, not just for their baby, but for all of the babies, for the baby that is being stolen 1 every 8 hours. And thank you to all of you.